Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter, and I am joined, as always, by the fabulous Pinkava. Hi, Am.
Hello.
And this week we have lots to talk about. If you guys missed it, Anne and I did a live last Thursday that is on YouTube now. So there will be a link in the description. We didn't exactly advertise it just because it was kind of spur of the moment. We weren't sure what we were doing. So if you missed it, there's going to be a link. And I was in sunny Florida, but as you can tell, I am back in New York. But it was a nice little getaway.
Which was part of the reason why we didn't advertise anything specifically either for like a filming schedule, because we never know how that's going to mesh with you being away or anything else.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it could have happened that I got down there by the swimming pool and I said, Anne, I can't possibly talk to you this week. So and you would have understood.
Just buzz off, Anne, because this pool is awfully nice. And I would have been like, okay, I get it though.
Yeah, because if you were to buy a pool, you probably would have been like, yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's also hilarious that the live wasn't quite working immediately, so we had to rely on my technical abilities, and we know how that goes. So
yeah, she's asking me questions, and I'm like, I'm in Florida. I don't have my computer. I'm like, just whatever. We'll figure it out when I get home. But lucky for us, her brother actually is tech savvy, so he came to the rescue.
Yeah, I was able to get him to help me, kind of sadly.
Hey, that's all right. We all have different strengths, and yours is intarsia knitting, and mine is the technical stuff.
Right? Yours is running a podcast, so that's good.
But so do you want to talk about what you're knitting on first?
Sure. Well, I am still in Reclaim Hat News, which I think I said no, it's really sad. And as I was griping to you about the show, so I have like a stack of these, right? So many. I particularly like this new black one. I think it's really cool. I think I said before how they had the red blue logo on the website and I didn't like it. But I have this pattern out to a couple of testers, and one of the ladies, she dyed her yarn so it would be like a large gray stripe. And I was kind of envious. I should have like jumped on that a little sooner, but then I didn't, like a fool. And she said that she was going to do the red blue logo, so I wanted to try it. Had a little bit of knitter's envy, but I think it turned out really well. And I'm not sure. Oh, you can tell a little better there, but the yarn kind of striped up, like it has a natural stripe to it, but it's striped up differently around the logo, and I really like it.
Yeah, that's really cool. And when you sent me the picture of that at first, I was a little bit, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. Like I see it better now.
Right, on the camera here, I think it turned up better than when it did when I took a picture with my phone. So
yeah.
Anyways,
the picture on your phone made it made it look less exciting, but it's nice.
Right. This is kind of I don't know, kind of Teen Titans. That how he had, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but how they had the big R Robin symbol. Anyways, so I like it. Like I said, there's a stack of these. They're everywhere. There's so many. Oh, there we go. There's another one. Yeah. Anyways, and also in testing. And then there's the one I'm making, which my gripe to you before the show is, so I readjusted the pattern. It's now going to be in 3 weights. So this is DK weight yarn. So I'm doing that to make sure that my math is right, and it's yet another one. And I have yarn incredibly similar to this. This is Barocco something. It's mixed silk and wool and maybe alpaca. I don't know, something. It's very hairy. And so I have similar yarn that I spun myself. I'm like, oh, but you know, the yarn weight won't be even because it's not very even yarn. So I'll do store-bought. Well, this stuff is there's like slubs in it. It's not super nice, and the hair gets in my eyes. And
That's the worst when you get the hair. I was knitting at the airport and the hair got from my knitting got in my mask and then I couldn't get it out. And like, how
right,
did it even get in there? Well, because masks are so special that it shouldn't have gotten in there, but
right, things cling to it.
yeah, that's the worst when it's flying everywhere and you're trying to knit. I mean, come on.
Right. And I mean, like up, I stick this to my face. I'm like, this is really nice. It's not itchy. I'm like, whew, but allergy girl here, you know. Otherwise, it's great.
Right. Don't mind me. Explode. Oh, I'm knocking things over, Anne.
Oh no.
Oh, geez. I won't be able to show you what I have if I knock it all
yeah.
down. Okay. I think it's better.
Anyways, so once I have a decided pattern, I'll be able to rest a little bit. That is, unless somebody, um, I've I've had family member almost steal this hat, so I'm like, no, no, no. I might have to make
When
a.
you're taking photos for your pattern and Instagram and things, you need to take all of those different hats you have, do them like I did all my Stop the Steal, like put them in an arc with that black one in the middle with all the grays around it. It'll be a really good picture for your pattern or whatever you're gonna do.
That'd be good. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. See, this is why we hang out.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
I give you good ideas.
right. But anyways, so that's again. So I've been mired in that. But it's a plan. It's coming along.
Great.
So yeah, what have you been working on?
Well, this week I've worked on not one thing.
Oh, ow.
So if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I cut myself on a piece of porcelain. I was trying to take out my washer filter, and my hand slipped, and there must have been a chip from a mug or a plate or something in there. And I have the biggest stinking cut on my thumb. And this is my thumb that I use to like push my needles along. I can't knit. So I maybe I'll actually get Anne's Intarsia video edited because I can't knit and I have a little bit extra time.
All right.
So but yeah, I have it's been happened on Tuesday. Now it's Thursday. So I'm hopeful that by the weekend I'll be knitting because I made it to round 2 of Sock Sanity.
Yay!
I completed my first pair of fingering weight socks. And this one, I don't know. I didn't do Kitchener stitch. I don't know what this is. It's not Kitchener. It looks disgusting. And I don't care. It's done. Don't know what happened to it. Don't mind it. It's awful. But it makes your toes super square when you put it on.
Right.
But these are Rye Light socks by Tin Can Knits. And they're cute. They've got a little garter section on top, and then they're stacking it around. And, and my mom really liked them, and they fit her. And she always makes socks for everyone else. And so I said, well, if you don't mind that, like, the toes are messed up and stuff, you can have them. And so she's going to have them. And these are going to be my next socks. This is a Hobby Lobby hand dyed. This is one of the colorways that the Lemonade stand said that Hobby Lobby stole from them. So that's cool. I got that. And it's going to go with this one that's a pink and orange. And I'm not certain that the colors are actually going to match, but I showed all my options to my kids and this is what they picked. So this is what the socks will be. Who cares? I mean, they go on your feet. So what's the difference if they're not like perfectly perfect? So that will be. And then Galley Life has been doing this cool thing where they've been giving out stickers. And you comment on their sticker post and you tag your friends and they send you some stickers if you're the winner. And I was the winner 2 weeks ago. And so I got this one that says, it is well with my soul, right? And then this one's my favorite. In the morning when I rise, give me Jesus and coffee. Because, I mean, if you follow me at all, you know that I love my coffee. This is my favorite thing ever. So I got that. And then there was a surprise in my mailbox. Like totally my friend Kathy Karen sent me 3 of her Ticker Knits books.
Oh, excellent.
So there's 3 different Ticker Knits books right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then she also sent me a copy of her Cowl Girls 2 book, which I just got these yesterday. I haven't even had a chance to like really sit down and look through them yet. I've just done the quick flip, and she's just so nice.
She's incredibly
She
nice.
said, keep knitting, keep the faith. Truth always wins out. It just takes some time.
Mhm.
And I thought that was great. And then she also included this book that is not one of hers. I'll have to post-it off of it she put on it. It's called Cleo, Irish Clothes in a Wider World. And it's like history-ish, like it's got all different things in there.
Oh,
So
sure.
I'm interested. I haven't, like I said, I got them. I looked at them. I flipped through. But yeah, I was surprised. I went to the post office and I had a yellow slip in my box saying, hey, you have a package. So I go up and they give me this giant package. I'm like, what is this? And it was from Kathy. It was a nice little surprise.
Mhm.
So that's what's happening with me. Oh, and this hat that I'm wearing on my head.
Oh, that one.
You guys have probably seen it. Yeah, how'd you miss it? It's orange. This is my Blooming Cables beanie. See it? It's got a couple different cables on there. It's all fancy pants. Can you see it? See it? How weird do I look? But this guy's in testing, and this pattern is going to be released on Saturday. So quick, easy, DK weight, cable knitting. Yeah. Cool stuff. So that's what I got for that. Mm-hmm. And then the most exciting thing that's happened to me in a while, I mean, besides the fact that I was in Florida and I was away from my kids for 3 whole days, 3 whole nights. Wow. It was more like I saw him on Wednesday and I saw him on Saturday. So it wasn't quite whole days, but you know. Right. The New Yorker article came out. And I have to say, as a conservative who is interviewed by not liberal people, but the publications tend to be left-leaning.
Right.
I always go into these things expecting to come out looking like I'm a psychotic lunatic. Like I just expect them to be like, oh, and we spoke to the Deplorable Knitter and she was a nut job.
Right. Well, that's there's so many different, things where like you hear people being interviewed and they're like, oh, well, I'm a small C conservative, or, oh, I'm a libertarian. Well, I'm a classical liberal. And not to take, you obviously self-identify whatever your beliefs are. But there seems to be such a big, well, I don't want to be considered one of those conservatives. And it's like, well, we are those conservatives, and frankly, they'll call you one of those conservatives anyways. So just embrace it, people.
Yeah, no, I
like there's no, I thought the New Yorker, like I said, was, nicer than it could have been.
Right, and I mean, like I was approached by Vox when the whole Ravelry thing went down, and I just straight up said no to them.
Right.
Because there's a difference between a publication being left-leaning and a publication being like a liberal-led paper. Like there's, you know what I mean? Most media we're going to have is left-leaning. And I know that, and I'm prepared for it. But I think it comes down to like the journalists and stuff, because I felt, besides the fact that she insinuated that she thought my precautions about like not telling her who I was and stuff were a little bit extreme.
Yeah, she didn't. She mentioned that, but she didn't mention the fact that you got death threats, and that's why you sort of kept with it.
I've never gotten death threats, Anne. I just people don't like me, and there's been rumors about like me doxing people, so I keep things close to the vest because I don't need nonsense in my life. I can create enough of it. I've got 2 kids. I've got a lot of crap.
Right.
No, but besides the fact that, she talked about me calling from a blocked number and not telling her my name and things, I don't know. I watched Dr. Carlin did a reaction video on it.
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, Deplorable Knitter is not wrong. She knows how you guys treat people, and it's not surprising that she, protected herself.
Right.
And that's all it is. If I didn't have the kids, I would probably not care as much, but I got the kids. I like them. It's my job to, make sure crazies don't come knocking if I can. So, but what did you think of the article?
Well, I thought there seems to be several like large different chunks through the article that you could have almost put little chapter headings over them. That you had the original sort of Women's March story and a little bit about the introduction of Ravelry, and then it sort of morphed from that to sort of the Trump ban. And I thought there was a couple of, I mean, if she's the majority of the article I think comes from Ravelry's side of things, and to have got it's mentioned in the article that they don't do a lot of interviews, so to have an interview with the founders of Ravelry directly, it's good to feature that. And I think a couple of the statements that they made were a little concerning, and I think that's where the sort of real reporting of the article came out a lot. But I mean, like, before getting to that, there's some bits like you mentioned the bunker and didn't mention that the people then who had taken that group off Ravelry to their own website was then harassed by Casey, then Cassidy now, off-site. That is an important point to me.
Right. And the people were removed from the site because Cassidy claimed that there was a breach of service, or it was some sort of internet mobbing onto Ravelry that they claimed that this group did, which didn't actually happen. But it makes no mention of that. So therefore it's easy to make it seem like Ravelry is the victim and the bunker were the crazies.
Right. And this is a phrase that is not only tossed around in this article, but in the world at large, but talking about the radicalization of conservatives, and how very radicalized they are now that Obama is in office. And and again, we have the very liberal groups, and they're on Ravelry, and there are again, very hateful things talked about conservative candidates, Trump in particular. But the bunker was about McCain and Palin, and McCain isn't exactly some rock-ribbed conservative figure, but it didn't matter that he was
right.
Still...
And when it was, I believe it's when it was the McCain group, but people were saying very horrible things about Sarah Palin. That if any of us had said it about Kamala Harris now, we would be in like huge trouble. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it would be bad.
Right.
Like the things that they were saying about her, that they were going to do to her or should happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the kind of thing you wish on anybody.
No.
I don't care who you are.
Right.
I mean, I can't repeat it because it's just completely inappropriate, but I'm sure you can imagine
Right.
what kind of things were being said. And it's just because they were in a group that didn't support Obama. Mm-hmm. And trolls would come in and harass these people, and Anne and I talked about it on our very first episode. So you want to find out what's going on, you can always go back there and see. But
and I believe an article about it was cited in the New Yorker article. So there are, and if you from the article, so that there is that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that from the research Anne and I did for our first podcast, the stuff that they said to the people in the bunker was completely inappropriate. Right. And if that had been conservatives saying it to liberals, it never would have been tolerated. But because it went the other way, it wasn't. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, because they didn't talk about the bunker that much.
Right, the bunker was in passing, but it's one of the things. It's
right.
Again, that this is hard right, this is right-wing extremism, and it's with all of the history of Ravelry and how they view political things, it is incredibly one-sided. And it's not, you're not equal under the law. There's not a, hey, this level isn't appropriate and we're going to apply it to both sides of a political argument. That you have that difficulty. I think it was, that when they mentioned your God is Love hat getting banned, because it's rainbow yarn and they decided that was homophobic, and you're like, what?
Right. I mean, there's a lot of, and I understand that she's writing an article and she can't put in everything, but the God's Love pattern was removed for being a homophobic dog whistle. That was the exact quote that was used. When the Make America Great cowl was removed, it was because it was racist against brown and black people. Like, I think that by putting in what Ravelry told me, it kind of gives you an insight into exactly where they are. Like, I used our president's campaign slogan, and here I am as racist. Like, if I had said that about an Obama slogan, people would have thought I was insane.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. I guess I still do get a little bit worked up about it. I'm a little mad, though, that she said that she thought Ravelry seemed like an ex-boyfriend to me.
That was a little...
I mean, I did enjoy it. I used to get on it. I mean, before I had kids, especially, I'd get on there on Saturday mornings while I wasn't ready to get out of bed and scroll through patterns and bookmark things. And it was a stress relief after working all week. But now I make my own patterns. I don't need to do that.
Right. And it's like, oh,
I have friends who make patterns.
It's like, if Ravelry is your ex-boyfriend, Ravelry is an abusive ex-boyfriend, because they just kicked you to the curb.
I know, right? So,
we used to have good times until he hit me. Metaphorically.
Yeah, so the overreaching theme out of everybody that I've talked to who's read it, or everything I've read from people who have looked at this article, is that it kind of felt like it didn't have a point. Like, a lot of people were like, well, yeah, it talked about bunker, and it talked about the Donald Trump ban, and it talked about the accessibility issue, and then it talked about the history of knitting.
Right.
And we're like,
well, I thought the most shocking part of that article was what Jess and Cassidy said about the accessibility issue. Like, if I was not political at all, I was like, that was incredibly shocking to me, because, like we said, the new Ravelry redo gave people seizures and migraines, and it was terrible. And they basically said, well, it's a stressful time for everyone, and people are so attached to Ravelry that they have seizures because of it. And like, A, it's not about you, and B, you don't see people walking up to other websites. You're not talking to Facebook or Instagram or Blogger or, LinkedIn and saying like, oh, well, you changed your thing and it gave me seizures. And it's like, oh, well, it's your fault because you love LinkedIn so much. No. And also that, again, that Jess wouldn't let Cassidy take the call alone was, that seemed a little concerning. And I know there's a lot of, it's hard times for everybody, but that seemed a little controlling to me. Right. Sorry. Obviously, these are people who I disagree with politically, so don't want to
but
take
the dynamic has always been there.
Right.
The dynamic has always been there, where she is in charge and everybody else just follows her, is really what it seems like. So that's not really that surprising that Cassidy was on the phone and she was right there up their butt. Because whatever. But yeah, so the accessibility thing. So there's been tons of migraines, and okay, I gotta laugh though, because the part where it said gender dysphoria, that the website caused that, I hadn't heard that one before, and I was like, how did the website do that? I don't understand. Perhaps if somebody out there has read how that happens, you can drop us a link, because that's odd. It's one we haven't heard.
That's weird. I mean, please tell.
But you know, so there's a ton of cases. People like were filing complaints about this so that it would be recorded, the migraines and seizures and all that stuff.
Right.
And the Epilepsy Foundation put out a warning about the site. And then Jessica says, well, you know, there's a neurologist that uses our site, and they said that stress is a factor. That's real. Okay. I don't like terms like othering or, you know, gaslighting, but that's what she's doing with that statement. That's taking all of the claims that everybody have made and just saying, well, you know, this one neurologist says that stress can happen and cause it. So because we set it out during a pandemic, you know, people were on edge, and it's silly.
It's the pandemic's fault and not our website. So we're not really going to believe people if they say that our new website redesign is horrible.
Right. And I mean, I don't go on Ravelry anymore, but I have seen screenshots and things shared, and I am really prone to migraines. I've hit my head a lot of times in my life, and actually after my last concussion, my doctor said it would be best if you could really try not to hit your head anymore, because it keeps taking you longer and longer to heal from them, so that's not good.
Right.
But anyway, so I get a lot of migraines, and I'm like really prone to motion sickness and stuff, and sometimes when I see those screen grabs, they make me feel nauseous. So I don't know if it's the power of suggestion. I don't know if there really is something about the way the font is that makes people who are prone to that worse. I don't pretend to understand, but I don't think the people are lying either. So,
right.
Anyway, my rant about Ravelry. Sorry.
No, that's okay, because again, look, the political thing was absolutely horrible, but when people are telling you about this actual like physical problem that they have with your website and you're not believing them, that is just a different level of cruelty.
It is. And it's, I don't know, there's just something really, I don't even know, but the article, it just felt so disjointed to me. It just felt like the author had so many things that she wanted to say, and she didn't really fully tie them all together.
Right. It's
so
like she was kind of setting down the modern history of political knitting all at one go, and that it was a little difficult to kind of bring it all together.
Yeah, and I was telling Anne, but the woman who is curating the Crafting Conservative museum exhibit that we're hoping to be a part of, she and I actually spoke about it. She texted me when she found out I was interviewed for the article, telling me, you know, congratulations. And I said, you know, I know that you and I don't have the same viewpoint, and I've heard from a lot of people who think like me. I would really like to hear what you think when it's done. And she goes, the first thing she said to me was, you know, she started with the Pussy Hat story, and that just felt so old to me. Like every knitter on earth has already heard that.
Right.
But then again, the more I think about it, the more I think about like you have to cover all the crap, because how many people who read the New Yorker are avid knitters know what is going on?
Right.
Like what, 1%? Like how many of them really are? So it makes sense why you have to do that. But on the other hand, for all of us, we're like, the story again. Like, come on.
Right. A lot of people don't know about that story. You know, how are you going to get them in the weeds when we talk about the after effect of the Trump ban on Instagram and things like Humble Acres and Maisie Hutton and, you know, like all of these like little things that happen through the years. It's like, wait, these are important stories. But you don't like you have to get the overarching what's going on in the world before you get into the little nitty gritty.
Right. And the article almost felt like it could have been maybe 2 or 3. Like it could have been a recurring series, or instead of being in print, on the internet or something, where here is the over part, and now here's the next layer, and then here's this microcosm of all of the crap that happened in the last year. And I think that would have been an easier way to present it. But
I also thought, and this is again a very liberal plot device, or it's something that comes up in liberal media a lot, but it was talking about how the Trump ban on Ravelry was something like 8 months or 18 months before the January 6th incident. I'm like, like there's any connection whatsoever.
Well,
And I'm
I
like,
thought it,
what? Why is
okay,
this here?
I know. And this is the thing. And I told Anne this too. When I got interviewed, and from other people who were interviewed and then not included in the article, this is what I think happened. They interviewed a whole bunch of people. I was interviewed in January. Probably other people were interviewed around the same time. And then in February, Jessica and Cassidy agreed to the interview. And so I think that all of the information that she gleaned from all of the people she talked to kind of got pushed over here, because then all of a sudden it became a Ravelry piece about the Ravelry people as told by the Ravelry people. And so I think that that changed the whole flavor of everything that was going on, because
Right.
a lot of what she and I talked about isn't in there. A lot of there's Katie B, who is, she's spoken out a lot about the accessibility issues. She was a person of Ravelry at one point. She was big. She got interviewed, and her thing is like this teeny tiny thing. I mean, she was told that they were gonna promote her design business, and then they just made a teeny tiny little thing about it that had nothing to do with it, which is really too bad.
It is
no, but I just think that that changed the whole focus of it when Jess and Cassidy said, yeah, we'll be interviewed, because then the rest of us are kind of like minor players in the thing now.
It's true. So, I mean, of course I thought your part was good, but also, I think, well, it changed sort of the tenor of the article, but also it really kind of exposed, I would say, Jess and Cassidy's thoughts on Ravelry and about the people who use Ravelry. I thought that was kind of like, ooh, this is not necessarily flattering. Like, it's kind of put in a flattering light, but it's not really.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's my own bias, but it's like, this is not painting you to be the heroes that I think you are.
Right. And that's the other thing I wanted to get at, was that a lot of people said they felt like the article tried to paint them as victims, or maybe not victims, but maybe they didn't really realize their scope, or, like they were naive, or I don't know, something. And they're not. And they don't come across as that likable either. So it's kind of hard to be like, oh, you poor people, because you're kind of cringy. Like, I'm kind of, you talk, and, Cassidy's quoted as saying, Cassidy was saying when they implemented the Trump ban, that they really thought they had done something that mattered, and that other sites would start following behind them and stuff, and then nothing happened. And I think that in their heads, there are these, I don't know, they're naive and they're whatever, but they also think that they have a big enough stage that they're going to rule the world or influence. I don't know, something. I don't know.
Yeah. And talking as a political knitter, having a large scale influence on the world through knitting, it's there, but it's difficult.
Yeah, no, it is difficult. Dude, every time I go up 10 people on Instagram, I go down 15. It's like, you never can quite get to where you want to be, and that's okay. But so the other thing that I wish that some outside company would come in and like actually audit their real amount of users.
Yeah.
Because they say they have 9 million and that 1 million a month are active, and I just don't know if it's true.
That was something that because they mentioned how they have had a record number of users during this past year. And again, it's during a pandemic, and a lot of people have started knitting. So I don't want to take that.
I think that could be true, that they had more users than ever, but I still don't think their numbers are accurate.
No, I don't think that's accurate either. I think I'd be walking down the street and seeing a lot more hand knits to begin with. But that would, I'd see some industry changes. But yeah, there's a lot of questionability with that, and because I also, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the numbers that Ravelry put out, that there was, oh gosh, I'm gonna mess this up, but when they had their Trump ban and they had a lot of issues, that they just sort of like numbers wise, no, wait, everything's good. When Twitter had a Trump ban and had issues, their market share went down. Ravelry doesn't have a market share to show that. And they were just kind of like, oh no, we're all good. We have so many users. I'm like, oh, wait.
Right. And I don't know where the videos and things have gone, but I remember back when everything was going on that there were people who were going through screens and screens and screens of blank profiles that were all made at the same time, that had no information in them, that had no pictures, that had, and they were like, really? Does this seem like a bot account to you? Do you really think that there's 9 million anything going on here? Like,
Right.
there's no way that their numbers didn't go down at all when they banned Trump. There's just not.
No, and I briefly mentioned Maisie Hutton earlier, that she was one of the first Instagram accounts that she like did the hard reporting. That one was incredible. That when
Yeah,
all of
she
this,
actually might have been the one that had it, now
right,
that I think of it. Yeah.
Maisie, if you're listening, if you know anyone who gets in contact with Maisie, that woman, just incredible, just amazing. She, having again screen grabs, and she did her research and she went down the line. After a
Yep.
while, it seems to be like, a little like it was a lot. It seems she put a lot of time into it, and I think she sort of wore out of that. And there were some other things too, but
Right.
she had some good reporting. Good for her. Anyways,
Yep.
it's only like a year on, and I'm like, wow, when the internet was good. But
Oh,
anyways,
wow. So the New Yorker article, if you haven't read it, it's long. They
it
actually
is
have
long.
an audio link, and it's 41 minutes if you listen to it. And even though I was mentioned in it, I don't think I read the whole thing. I think like I skimmed part of it, like about the history of knitting and stuff. Because I was like, all right, I know this, blah, blah, revolutionary. Okay, okay, now there's more pertinent
Right.
stuff.
Well, I read it, and let me tell you, they spelled my name right. So that's okay.
Hey,
The most
speaking of your
salient
names,
point. I'm not beyond a little navel gazing.
so I know you were mentioned. Aren't you excited?
I know. It's exciting.
I don't think we covered that much of the article, but I think we're done with it.
Yeah, I think read the
It
article
was
if you
cool.
like. Listen to the
I'm going to
article.
get the hard copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to get the hard copy, so I will show it off to you when I have the real magazine,
Nice.
which, why not? And then that's all. You should read it. Got any questions? I'll drop a link to it. So Anne said that there's some crazy stuff happening in England, and
Oh yeah. Well, because today, as we're recording, it's the Biden news conference. So we're not talking about that. I'm sure it will be fun though. But anyways, onto English news, because it helps my pile of knitting. So this past weekend, Saturday, March 20th, there was many anti-lockdown protests around the world, which I didn't even hear of until they had happened. So that sort of tells you how that flow of information is going. But there were large protests. They were in New York City, they were in Dublin, they were in Holland, I forget what town. There was anti-lockdown protests in Amsterdam, and there was a big one in London where they marched through the city. And that one, it was, people holding signs, people walking through, but they got to Hyde Park, and it's sort of the end of the march, and people are milling around, and the police presence was quite, I would say, quite shocking. That there was videos of people getting arrested all day, but one video in particular where a man was thrown to the ground and kicked by the police, and another guy pinned to the pavement, people screaming, people getting hauled away, a lady just holding a sign saying that we have a right to protest, and she's getting talked to by the police. And Emily Hill, who sometimes writes for Spiked Online, which is Brendan O'Neill's publication, she was filming things walking around. And she has a proper press pass, but even she was going like, yeah, I don't want to get arrested. I'm not sure this will help me, even if I am officially a journalist. But she said that what the cops would do is that you have all these people in Hyde Park, and then they would circle around a group of people and then like beat up and arrest people. And then anyone who didn't scatter at that point, they would go out and arrest or talk to, depending on, what they could manage. So quite shocking police behavior, I would say. In the current English lockdown situation, protests are illegal, which again, woohoo, those human rights. So you have that thing going on. So you have this again, and I believe it was the protests in Holland, or it was definitely in a Nordic country where they got out the fire hose. Always a good time when you're the police and people are peacefully protesting. Historically, that's really worked out for people, and good thought. But you also have Amsterdam, where they brought out those German Shepherds. Again, super good for optics. Thanks, Germany. I didn't see the German Shepherds like actively attacking people, but they were like straining at the leash, and it was super fun. But you have all these issues, and again, that treatment of people that, hey, you're not allowed to protest, this is terrible. Go to the next night, March 21st, in Bristol, England, and it was a Kill the Bill protest. The bill that they have, it is on one hand, they have more stringent punishments for different crimes and assaults. But on the other hand, in that bill, there is much harder punishments for people who are protesting. And that includes one person protesting and stationary protesting. So if you are the man holding a sign on the street corner saying the end is near, and people are like, you're a nuisance, now you're in huge trouble with the police. I'm like, ooh, happy free society.
Really?
So, yes. So while I disagree with this bill, our buddies from Antifa and Black Lives Matter got together, and this is on their Twitter pages, the local Bristol Twitter pages. So that's not just me throwing stuff in there, that you should go to this rally and wear all black and delete all video evidence if you took any, and all of that. And you can see big spray paint, anarchist symbols, ACAB, it's written everywhere in spray paint, and there are police vans on fire. The police of Bristol found it much harder to tackle and subdue these people. They didn't attempt it as readily as they did the peaceful protesters in Hyde Park. When you're throwing fireworks around, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to fight these guys. So of course, there were also arrests. One of the people who were caught in the Bristol non-peaceful protests, to put it nicely, was the son of a senior civil servant in Bristol. It's funny how that always works out. But
it generally is a lot of them are associated with, high up people that you wouldn't necessarily expect those protesters to be.
Well, I would say that part of it is the sort of weird bureaucratic privilege, the deep state, if you will, the two-world system, where if you're just Johnny out here and you're sad because you want to open your bakery, well, we got to shut that guy down. But over here, well, I'm the son of a civil servant and I don't think I'll really get in trouble for this. And I just, again,
well, yeah, there's that too.
Fan. So anyway, so we have all of that, and we Andy is in England, or was in England. I don't know exactly where he is at the moment, but he was reporting on it and talking about the different Antifa tactics, because he just published a book on the subject. So all of this happens, and to monologue a little further, yesterday morning, Lawrence Fox, who again, leader of the Reclaim Party and is running for mayor of London, the cops knocked on his door saying that we got a report that you're breaking COVID regulations. That that people that we know that COVID regulations have changed due to campaigning, but we hear that you're going door to door knocking, which he said he's not doing because he doesn't like that. Or you're holding large rallies. He's like, didn't do that either. Well, he was very polite to the policeman, but it's like, but the policeman admitted that we have no proof that you are doing this. Just, make sure that that somebody made a complaint about you, and, pay attention to regulations. And they seemed they were very polite, and they seemed a little ashamed that that they're being made to do this. But again, actual crime on the rise in London, and you're knocking on people's doors saying this.
Yeah, I saw that clip because you shared it on Instagram, and it was very much like the guys are like, hey, this is what people are saying. We kind of thought you should know. It wasn't like so much like you're in trouble. It was more like, we have to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. But the whole thing is kind of nonsense. Like, what? I mean, I don't know. In England, are their rights different? Do they have different free speech things and things? Is that why protesting can be dealt with so harshly?
Well, they specifically put protesting in the COVID regulations, but under common law, which is a higher ranking than any COVID regulations, protesting is considered to be a right.
Okay.
So again, free speech rules are different because they don't, like our Constitution, number one, free speech. Number two,
right.
arming yourself. But that those are very clearly laid out. They're very obviously done. And free speech is something that's a little less obvious in common law, that they seem to, well, not as if we don't have problems of our own, but they also have, it's a little easier for that to be twisted in England and Scotland, especially Scotland. But
okay. See, I don't know that much about it. So I assume like in other places they're allowed to protest like us, but then I go, but maybe they're not, because they don't have a lot of the other rights that we have. So maybe it's not the same. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But it's seriously disturbing that the good guys are the ones that are getting beat up and thrown down and wrestled around.
They are arresting the Antifa types, but I don't know, it kind of the Kill the Bill protesting, again, not super cool with the bill. Maybe little bits and pieces. I'm like, okay. But the entire bill as a whole, not for it. But how much more of I know it's almost like a false flag protest sort of a thing, where, well, if you are against this bill, you must be aligned with these violent protesters. That there's there's sort of that element to it that's like, ooh, this is kind of scuzzy. I'm not into this.
So it kind of goes into the stuff that we deal with, like, oh, because Trump said this thing about women, then you must hate all women if you like it kind of rolls into that, because one unsavory thing happened or is perceived to have happened, then therefore you are all of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's sort of, and also it's the issue of, they seem diametrically opposed, that you're not for the defund the police people, but the police are also kick the man to the ground. Okay, so how are we going to play this? That you want, there are good officers who are just trying to do the honest job of keeping people safe, and you support those good officers, but we've had reports from England and from all over the world about policemen stopping people. Oh, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. You can't sit on a bench and have an ice cream. I'm sorry, sir, you have to move on and keep your face covered and don't talk to anyone. Those sorts of things. You have that you've given people a ridiculous amount of power, and then you're surprised if they abuse it. And I'm like, that was already abuse. That you have that.
So the ice cream thing made me think of flying, because obviously we flew to Florida and back, so we were only gone like 3.5 days. So on our first flight there, totally fine. We were unmasked while we were having our drink service. Not a big deal. Nobody said anything. Our flight was packed. People to people. We were sitting next to my husband was sitting next to a stranger, as I mentioned, because I wanted to sit by the window. So I'm like, honey, you have to sit in the middle. But so on our first flight, we had our drinks, we had our masks off, we were talking to our neighbor. It was a nice time. On our flight home, it was just myself and my husband in our row because the plane wasn't quite as busy. And, he's drinking his drink, and the head flight attendant or whoever she was came by, and she's like, excuse me, sir, you need to wear your mask in between sips. And I'm like, what the hell? So I think, like you said, on the first flight, it was a different crew, obviously, and they were totally like, whatever. My husband asked for a Maine lobster, and the steward tried to sell him his salad that he had for lunch. He's like, here, I'll give you this if you pay me enough. Right. And it was a totally different atmosphere. And then on that plane, we had like the soup Nazi. Put your mask on. Put it on now. If you're not drinking right this second, you must have it on. Like,
right. And to use Mark Stein's line, all tyranny is capricious. That, if you happen to have a benevolent tyrant, like they have all the power, but they're like, yeah, kids, so go play in the backyard. I don't care what you do. Then everything is fine. But if you have someone who is, overbearing and looking at what you're doing absolutely every second and having, kind of having the hooks in, then it is horrible. And that is why you need the sort of check and balance of, hey, you have to have clear rules and they have to be obeyed equally by all people. And you have to have the ability to redress grievances when you have these unfair practices. That you need to be able to have a fair system where it's like, okay, you have rules, but we object to these rules, let's work it out. And when you don't have that anymore, then you have the power to go wild. And we're in trouble. I think there's plenty of people pushing back against it, and that is showing effect, and we need to do that more. But we cannot stay where we are when it comes to these overreach of powers, whether it is a policeman who is sent around to your house because you're playing music too loud and you may or may not be having a party, or if it's having masks between sips.
Yeah, no, it's nutty. I don't know, Anne. The problem is that I don't know anything anymore. And what are we supposed to do? Do we just go out without our masks on and like wait for people to beat us up, or do we wear them to not cause trouble, or do we I don't know.
Well, again, my corner of the world is less crazy than other corners, so again, conservative governor privilege. But I walk around without wearing masks in all public places and haven't got checked for it. Could also be that I'm kind of a tall woman, and if I look smaller or more harassable, then maybe. But that there is that element, unfortunately, about it that you can kind of tell. But I don't know. It's a risk assessment. I'd say do it. Anytime where I walk around without a mask, but there have been times where I'm like, okay, well, fine, I'll put the mask on. And then after a bit, I'm like, actually, I hate this. And I believe that's one of in Jordan Peterson's new book, the Beyond Order one. And I'm sure there's some nuance to this statement, but do nothing you hate. And if I'm just gonna walk around wearing a mask and hating it and just going rah 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 rah, this is actually hurting my health. Thank you, everyone. Then I'm taking it off. I don't care. Fight me.
Yeah, I struggle with it, and it's not because I don't think that we should have the ability to choose. It's just that I know where I live and I know how people are. Right. And a lot of these people you see have gotten so bold that they'll come right out and like be crazy in your face. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't want to have my rights, but man, I don't really feel like getting beaten up in front of my kids either. So it's like, where do you go with that?
So, at the same time, I was at the store a couple of weeks ago, and there was a clothing rack, and there was somebody sitting behind it, and they had a mask. And I realized for a second that while I was looking over the mask, that I had seen their face, but like my mind had not registered them as human, as just a thing. Like I had seen a person straight in the face and like didn't, there was nothing because their face was covered up. And I'm like, oh, this is bad. This
It's
is
totally messed up.
right. Yeah, and again,
We end up talking about COVID every time, no matter if we mean to or not. You know that? Or almost
well, I
every
know
time.
it is so stupidly all consuming,
It is, it's
and
awful.
just and it's an excuse for so many horrible things. And follow the science, follow the science. Well, science is no, 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 not that science.
Try different science.
Try different science. But as for health should be your own decision. And you should have full sovereignty over your own body. Again, mask, no mask, whatever COVID regulations should be your own decision because nobody is responsible for you except you. And that we have a forced medical morality is, well, not healthy. Sorry that it's frankly bizarre and unhealthy, and I'm not for it.
It is. Okay. I know we need to get wrapped up because we've been talking a while, but I saw a clip today of Dr. Fauci telling somebody that he's not going to get tested for COVID because he doesn't have symptoms. Excuse me, so why do I have to get tested for COVID if I don't have symptoms?
Exactly.
It's just this do as I say, not as I do world, and it is out of control. I don't even understand anymore.
Right.
Man, it's going to hell in a handbasket.
Exactly. But to quote our most important moralist, Cinderella, they can't order me to stop dreaming. So there.
Well, there you go. Very good. And on that note, guys, join us next week for whatever we can dig up. No, join us next week. I'm sure that we might have a guest next week. So we'll see what's up with that. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you then, guys.